In the small town of Ugledar, the Russian military launched a major offensive. More than 150 units of military equipment advanced to Ukrainian positions. Their goal was to break through the Ukrainian defense and capture the town. The Russians assembled a powerful armored fist and were confident of their success. Advancing, they lined up in columns. No one expected the Russians to make the same mistake they made in the beginning of the war. As you know, Ukrainian artillerymen really like a large accumulation of armored vehicles. The Russians intended to break through the Ukrainian positions, but something went wrong. The Ukrainian military closely monitored the situation and began to act in time. A little later, we will tell and show you what happened. And now, we will tell you about the hottest place on the front line. This is the city of Bakhmut. The Russians have some success around the city. They managed to create huge pressure on Ukrainian positions, regardless of the losses. They have success thanks to a fantastic amount of ammunition. The fire is waged 24 hours a day without stopping. The Ukrainian defenders retreat when the cost of holding their position becomes too high. The battle for the city of Bakhmut became the fiercest of the entire war. On the video, you can see under what kind of bombing Ukrainian soldiers have to sit in the trenches. Not many people can stand it. After the work of the artillery, the Russian commanders send their soldiers on the offensive to occupy new lines. They come wave after wave from different directions. To stop them, the Ukrainian army uses all available means. When one wave of Russians ends, the next one follows. Ukrainians call this phenomenon meat waves or meat assaults. The fighting around Bakhmut continues around the clock, but at night, the fighting is the most fierce. Ukrainian soldiers have an advantage due to modern night vision equipment and other electronics. This causes huge problems for the Russians, but that doesn't stop them. Where the Russians have no equal is in their perseverance. At night, they somehow manage to take some positions, and to keep them, they use intense artillery fire again and again. It is no secret that the Russians use mostly old weapons from the times of the Soviet Union. They're not very accurate, but with mass application, they give some success. The most working equipment for the Russians is the Grad and Smerch multiple launch rocket systems. The advantage of the Grad is that it is very mobile and can be quickly prepared for use. The range of hitting targets is from 2 to 12 miles. The Russians use them with whole batteries, covering huge areas hoping to hit the enemy. To destroy larger targets, the Russians use the Smerch multiple launch rocket system. But Ukrainian soldiers somehow learn to defend themselves in very fortified places. But the city of Bakhmut is almost completely destroyed. The battle for Bakhmut can be compared to the most brutal battles of the First and Second World Wars. Even the local landscape is terrifying. We have video evidence from the Ukrainian military, who are often forced to leave their positions and retreat under Russian pressure.
Алекс, мы будем отступать, берем с собой автомат.
Being under shelling is a very big test for the psyche. Some even go crazy. Leading the defense in this direction, the Ukrainian general Syrskyi is often personally on the front line next to ordinary soldiers, raising their spirits with his presence. Previously, he led the defense of Kiev and gained fame as an intelligent and successful general who values the life of his soldiers. Also, President Zelensky himself once came to Bakhmut. The defense of Bakhmut has become a symbol of resilience and courage for Ukraine. During the fighting, it was almost destroyed. There is not a single undamaged building in the city, and yet there are still civilians here, mostly elderly people who refuse to leave. Soldiers help them with food, even though many of them are actually waiting for the Russians to come. But let's get back to the battlefield. A little north of Bakhmut, the Russians are also conducting offensive operations. Their goal is to regain the city of Lyman they lost last year. This is a key city for the conquest of the entire Donetsk region. The front line here passes through dense pine forests. The main skill here is to disguise your positions and military equipment well. The Russians use a special vehicle with a very strange name, ZVO, to hunt down the positions of the Ukrainian artillery. This machine can detect a flying enemy projectile, a mine, a rocket, and even a shot from a tank gun. In 2 seconds, it calculates the reverse flight path with an accuracy of several meters, determining the coordinates of the place where the ammunition was fired from. The received coordinates are transmitted to the crews of multiple launch rocket systems, which immediately open fire on the enemy. And finally, we will return to Ugledar. The Russians are advancing with a whole column of armored vehicles. 3 Russian brigades are participating in the offensive at once. Obviously, they were given the task of breaking through the Ukrainian defenses in this place. The Russians had an absolute numerical superiority here, at least 3-1. From the Ukrainian side, the defense was held by the 72nd Brigade. This is one of the most experienced units that defended Kiev. Ukrainians follow their every move with the help of drones and start acting in time. Thanks to Ukrainian drone operators, we have unique documentary footage. Ukrainians have achieved great skill in using civilian drones in war. In this craft, they can be considered the best in the world. The battle started suddenly. When Russians got close to the right distance, precision-guided Ukrainian artillery came into play. Several accurate hits and the first tanks began to burn. The Russians tried to snap back by shooting back with tanks. But the Ukrainians continued to destroy their equipment with accurate hits. In the end, the Russians dropped everything and started to run away. But not everyone is so lucky. Many stayed there forever. On that day, the Ukrainian military destroyed dozens of armored vehicles, including more than 30 tanks. The offensive failed completely, and the Russians withdrew with heavy losses. Later, military experts rated the level of training of the Russian infantry very low, and came to the conclusion that they have no more chances to win this war at all. The Russians made several more such attempts to break through in this place, but they were all unsuccessful. They even tried to advance in the style of World War II, when infantry armed only with assault rifles run forward at full height, not covered by armored vehicles. Of course, all these Russians stumbled upon Ukrainian machine guns. Some were captured, which is not typical for the advancing side. As a result, the Russians were unable to advance a single mile in front. After that, they sent heavy flamethrower systems, TOS, there. I already talked about this weapon on my channel. This very formidable and dangerous weapon fires thermobaric rockets. The Russians use it when things are going very badly and the infantry can't cope. Here's what it looks like. Fortunately, the range of the TOS system is not so deep and reaches only 10 miles. This allows the Ukrainian army to track them down and destroy them with a HIMARS precision missile or Excalibur precision projectiles. These projectiles are so accurate that they can even hit a moving target. The Russians simply have no chance of breaking through the Ukrainian defenses. If you liked today's episode, be sure to click the like button and subscribe to my channel. There will be more.